Have you ever wondered what an ancient royal cupbearer could possibly teach us about modern crisis management? Well, it turns out a lot. Today we're diving into the incredible story of Nehemiah. This is a guy who rebuilt not just a city's defenses, but its entire spirit against absolutely all odds. And get this, he did it in just 52 days. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the leader's burden, what kicked this whole thing off. Then, we'll get into the mission itself, which was, pretty audacious. After that, we'll tackle the enemies he faced, both outside and inside the walls. We'll see the amazing breakthrough, that 52-day miracle. And finally, we'll pull it all together into a blueprint for renewal that's still so relevant today. Let's get into it.
All right, first things first. To really get this mission, you have to get the man behind it. I mean, who was Nehemiah? And what could possibly drive someone from a life of total comfort into what looks like an absolutely impossible calling? And this really sets the stage, doesn't it? It's such a stark contrast. On one hand, you've got Nehemiah. He's the king's cupbearer in Persia. I mean, this guy has a life of comfort, trust, serious influence. He's got it made. But then you look at his people back in Jerusalem, and it's the complete opposite. They're living in distress, disgrace, constant danger because their city walls are just rubble. And that huge gap between comfort and crisis, that's what he's about to step into. So when Nehemiah hears this news, it becomes his absolute turning point. He doesn't just send a sorry to hear that message. No, he is completely shattered by it. His immediate gut reaction is to sit down and weep. For days, he mourns, he fasts, he prays. He doesn't just see it as their problem, he makes it his problem. He feels their suffering as if it's his own. And right there, that's the first sign of a true servant leader. But look, being heartbroken doesn't rebuild cities, right? So the big question is, how did Nehemiah turn all that grief, that heavy burden, into an actual, strategic, and honestly audacious plan? This wasn't just about feeling bad about the situation. This was about doing something. And what's so amazing is how methodical he was. This wasn't just raw passion. Look at the steps. He starts with prayer and fasting, getting his own head and heart right, seeking that divine guidance. Then he goes to the king. He leverages the trust he's built to get royal backing, permission, resources, the whole deal. But he doesn't stop there. He doesn't just take reports. He actually goes out, in secret, at night, to see the damage with his own eyes. And only after all of that, once he has the full picture, does he stand before the people and inspire them with a vision. And listen to how he frames it. This is so key. He says, "Come, let us rebuild the wall, and we will no longer be in disgrace." See? He didn't pitch this as a big construction project. He pitched it as a mission to restore their honor, their dignity. This was never, ever just about bricks and mortar. It was about rebuilding who they were. Okay, but you just know a mission this big, this bold, is not going to be a walk in the park. And sure enough, Nehemiah immediately runs into some serious opposition. And not just from his enemies on the outside, but from problems cropping up on the inside, too. I mean, from the second they lay the first stone, powerful local guys like this Sanballat, they get angry. They start mocking them, threatening them. Why? Because a strong, rebuilt Jerusalem was a direct threat to their power in the region. And they were going to do everything they could to shut this project down. But Nehemiah's response to all this fear and mockery? It's just a powerful, simple declaration of faith. Our God will fight for us. He doesn't get drawn into their petty fights or their arguments. Nope. He just keeps pointing his people back to their higher purpose, reminding them they weren't alone in this. And that's what kept them going. And this is where you see just how brilliant his leadership was. He had this two-pronged strategy. For the external threats, the mockery and conspiracies, he combined prayer with armed guards, faith and action. But then there were the internal threats, rich nobles exploiting the poor. And what did he do? He actually had the courage to stop the work on the wall to deal with it. He called for social justice reform right then and there, because he knew, what's the point of a strong wall if the community inside is broken and tearing itself apart? It's worthless. So you've got all this pressure building up, right? From the outside, from the inside. It all leads to this incredible climax. And what happens next? Well, it's nothing short of a miracle. A miracle of faith, amazing leadership, and just plain hard work. And this gives us one of the most powerful images from the whole story. The people who were carrying materials, they did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other.
Can you just picture that? A trowel in one hand, a sword in the other. They were building their future and defending it at the exact same time. It's just an incredible symbol of their commitment. So, let's just recap. They're facing constant threats, they're dealing with internal drama, they're building and fighting at the same time. How long do you think it would take to finish a project like this? To rebuild the entire wall around a city?
52. Just 52 days. That's all it took. I mean, it's an unbelievably short amount of time. And this incredible achievement didn't just make the city safe, it totally silenced their enemies. Even they had to admit that this couldn't have been done without divine help. What a powerful lesson in what a totally unified, inspired community can pull off.
But wait, the story doesn't actually end there. The wall wasn't the ultimate goal. Once the last stone was in place, the physical rebuilding sparked something way deeper. The people all came together, they listened to the word of God being read, they repented, and they renewed their covenant. You see, the wall was just the catalyst. The real goal was the spiritual revival.
So this is way more than just some old story, right? Let's pull this all together. What can we learn from this journey? What's the actual blueprint for renewal that we can take away and use in our own lives today?
When you really boil it all down, the whole story gives us these 3 timeless leadership principles. First, embrace hope. Don't look at something that's broken and see the end. See it as an opportunity for restoration. Second, work together. It's so simple, but so crucial. Lasting change never happens in a vacuum. It takes a team. And finally, be a change agent. Have the guts, the faith, and the courage to actually be the one who steps up to rebuild what's broken. That's it. That's the core of the blueprint.
So in the end, Nehemiah's true legacy isn't really a stone wall in Jerusalem. It's a blueprint for all of us, and it's a challenge. It kind of forces us to look around at the broken walls in our own lives, in our communities, in our world. And it leaves us with one simple but really powerful question to ask ourselves. What is your call to action today?